Welcome everybody to the next Mass Effect 4 Guardians video. But this one is actually really special, as you can see, because this is the first Mass Effect 4 Guardians podcast video. I'm here with my teammate Tyler, who I think that I mentioned him many times now, that I have a co-writer, and that's him. He he helped me in the last 2 or 3 months now, maybe since the beginning. After like a few weeks, since the beginning, he helped me with. We started with voice chats. Voice chats. We discussed our ideas. We reviewed our ideas with each other, and in the last couple of weeks, he really started to not just present his ideas and review mine, but write scripts for me. That helped me a lot in creating the videos and reducing the time that I have to put into videos. So he is generally an awesome guy. So say hello to Tyler, and Tyler, say hello to the audience.
Hello, everybody. I'm
Yeah,
Tyler, and I will be the podcast member for today.
for
Well,
today.
and always.
Always, you will be my teammate in all of the podcast video. So yeah, um, we will talk about many different topics. You can find the topics in the description, and I will put these links with timers to the description next to the topics, so you will be able to jump to the specific topics in the video, because these podcasts, as you may know, because I don't know if you've seen podcasts before or not, these podcasts may take up a long time, but we will make worth your while. So, okay, um, Tyler, let's what I don't know.
On to our first topic.
On our first topic, yeah, we will say like, you see, this is our first time doing the podcast, and neither of us have experience with this format, so we may have some hiccups here and there. So let's just move on. Um,
All right.
we will talk about characters. We will talk about how do we want to expand the Mass Effect universe, and not just present our ideas. We will present ideas that we don't even heard about before from each other. So we will have a conversation. And the first big thing that I want to present, because there will be characters and game mechanics, and we will talk about many things that happen in the community, stuff like that. But first, let's just start with, you know, the foundation. I did the foundation thing in the last couple of months, like setting up the Turians, the humans, and the main plot and stuff like that. And so we have to, there's a chain. We have to we had to settle like the first big question marks, like as I said, the humans and Turians. And now it will be the Asari. So in the first half of the video, we will talk about the Asari. Do you have anything to add? I don't know.
Uh, not as of yet, no.
No, not the same yet. So,
No.
we talked about the Asari before between ourselves. So let me share our view on this. What happened? How did the Asari face the Reapers, and what happened to the Asari after the war? Um, Generally, if you if you want to look up what really happened lore-wise, like canonically, to the study through the war, I really recommend to look up the Asari on the Mass Effect wiki. The Mass Effect wiki is really good, so I don't want to repeat it now. But the thing is that everybody should know that the Asari had the strongest economy had the biggest population and had the strongest military in the galaxy. They were the first species to reach the citadel. They started the galactic community, and they have, like, let's just look at their abilities. They have natural biotic talent. They have extremely long lives. And the Asari are kind of a parasitic species. A parasitic species. Let's just say that. So the Asari has everything that can go for them, and the Proteans left their relics and artifacts on their planet. So yeah, the Asari has everything that can go for them. So it is obvious that the Reapers have hit them the hardest, just as I said it in the main lore video, that the Asari suffered greatly during the war, and after the war it just didn't get really really good. So the Asari actually, the Asari Republics, that was the official name of the Asari faction, broke up because there were like the Asari core worlds. Samara in the game in Mass Effect 2 actually mentions these really religious core worlds. Um, and the thing is that these Asari who live on these core worlds usually never go out to outer space, to the outer, maybe to the outer Asari worlds, but they never leave Asari space. And these core world politicians and Asari people, they just had enough. And the thing is that the the thing what drive them, because this faction, these people actually left the republics. A really huge chunk of the Asari republics just left. This was like, I don't know, what do you think, Tyler? It was like maybe 50% of the Asari territory,
At least
maybe
somewhere around there.
around there.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, so these parts of the Asari republics left, and this includes Tessia, the home world as well. And the problem is that these, so this break, this alliance broke because the Guardians presented that they would help everyone to rebuild. And while many Asari worlds wanted to accept this help, even accepted it before others because they were in so desperate situation, then these Asari, this cold world Asari said that they had enough. They won't accept the aid of the Guardians because they don't trust them. They don't trust any other species at this point because, the Asari believed, I think, that they are the most advanced. They have the strongest economy and military. That when this alliance, what Commander Shepard was building, that alliance will help them first, maybe. Because if they free the strongest potential, then they can, retaliate better or something like this. So, but no aid was, the Asari didn't get anything. So the thing is that they just they just had enough. So they broke off. They severed most of the connection to outer space. They may have still some diplomatic connections to other Asari factions, but actually, I can say that this Asari Theocracy, because I think it's obvious that these really religious parts of the Asari republics would be the Asari Theocracy. They would be really religion based, and they would be xenophobic and isolationist. And the thing is that I have some more ideas for the aristocracy, but let's just jump into the other two factions because I think that they are a bit more important. One is the second part that broke off is Illium, and few planets that were like owned by Illium and its corporations. And we already know that Illium is on the border of Terminus, and it was not even in Citadel space. So Illium was on the border of the Attican Traverse and the Terminus systems, and it was kinda in orderly fashion, but it was on its own terms a lawless place where corporations own everything. And that is why Ilium just didn't join the religious xenophobics, because it is just totally against their core values. The Asari species is so huge at this point that these big differences can be present. That while Ilium is totally materialistic, then the theocracy is just totally religious. So Ilium, I think that the motivation was that Ilium would accept the aid of the Guardians, but also they don't want to help the other Asari worlds, who didn't go with the theocracy, but they are still poor and they don't have any big if influence on them. So Ilium just made an elite club, let's say that, and they use the left out Asari worlds as a market, you know, where they can just exploit. And the last Asari faction, the remnants of the Asari republics, these would be just the poor little worlds that were left out, that are still xenophile. I think it shows that I played a lot of Stellaris, and they resigned their membership in the Citadel Council, and they had become the Asari city states, because they are no longer a real republic. So this is the state of the republic, the Asari, as I envisioned. Um, so yeah, this is the state. I know that this was a bit long monologue, but I think that we had to clear up what is the base, what is our foundation, and where we go from here. Okay, Tyler, do you have? Sorry, it was a long monologue.
It's okay. Um, my opinion of all this is that the Asari Theocracy. How about that one first?
Yeah,
Um, that one I see most Asari probably wouldn't be totally religious based, not completely anyway. But I could see many of the politicians who were around after the war would see a
yeah,
a large group of Asari who go, "This was the end times" or something of such.
it is
You know,
kind of the end
these
time.
yeah that these were the gods that our goddess Elaine had once fought, and we fought them as well, and so on and so forth. And I could see either a lot of new politicians coming into the scope and truly being religious in such a destructive way,
Yeah. Do you think that?
and the other sorry politicians playing off this to keep their seats and their power.
Yeah. Do you know what? I had a major in history, so um, um, do you know what came up to me? That how do you know what happened in Iran in the 70s?
Uh,
The the actually in the 70s, Iran, you
hmm.
may know Iran. It's like a Middle Eastern
Yes, yes.
country, and Iran in the 70s was looked like a Western country. Like
Oh yeah.
women didn't wear burqa, that
Mhm.
clothes everywhere and stuff like that. It was not a really, there was some Islam there, but actually it looked
It
like
was
that.
pretty westernized.
Yeah, it was really westernized. And then this Islamic revolution or something just occurred,
Mhm.
and these politicians started it. And now Iran is one of the most radical Islamist countries in the world. It
Mhm.
just and many people are are not that hard on each other regarding religion. You know, they say that yeah, I'm like a Muslim, but you see that there is this core really religious political elite that controls everything there, and that's why the country became like this in a very short time. And I think that this
Mhm.
may be the case with the Asari Theocracy, that these politicians, in the crisis, chaos is a ladder, they grabbed
Mhm.
the power and they wanted to return the Asari to this state.
To a more prosperous or seemingly prosperous time.
Yeah, because I think that before the galactic community, these religious leaders and politicians had much more power before they met with the other species in the galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, if you played the Citadel DLC and you're going through the shoot, what's it called, archives, um, you even see the Asari's recorded history of uh, they seem pretty religious when initially finding the Citadel.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that their power just they lost much power, especially after the Asari found out that they can kinda reproduce with other species as well, because that is the base for the Asari to go xenophile. That they, you know,
Well, another good reason for that is because when you do that, when if you're not a pure-blooded Asari,
yeah,
there's no chance of you having children becoming Ardayakshi.
yes. And the thing is that now it's actually, as we know, it's it's actually Asari are getting shamed if they are pure blood. So yeah, like I think that was one a conversation on Illium where I
Hmm.
guess two Asari had a small talk or something, a chat, when they were like, "Oh, did you hear about that? She is actually a pure blood. Oh, that's so bad because it's not normal anymore.
Hmm.
How like Liara is a pure blood." And like she had two Asari, like uh, matriarch Benezia. I
Hmm.
guess she was Benezia, and the other one is like, if you didn't know, Liara.
Matriarch. My goodness, I can't remember now.
Yeah, Liara's father is actually the barkeeper on Illium, that
Hmm.
half Krogan Asari. That Jin.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. The game was like 10 years ago. Please
Exactly.
play it. But actually, if you think about Liara is like a quarter Krogan. That explains a lot of things, I guess.
That is true.
So, yeah.
But I mean, to quote Liara, it doesn't work like that.
Oh, doctor. So yeah, um, I have a few ideas for the Asari Theocracy, one or two missions that I would like to share in the future. But the thing is that the Asari Theocracy left the Citadel space. It's officially not a Citadel space anymore, and they just don't let anyone in. Like, medieval Japan. It was a really, really huge thing that the Japanese let European sailors and ships like dock into Japanese ports in medieval times, because Japan and China as well were so isolationist that I think that um, connection to that part of the galaxy is severed to the point that the species outside the Asari know very little about them. And it would be actually dangerous. So if someone would go unauthorized to that space, they may be even attacked or like thrown into jail or something.
I think anyone who does get permission to go into Asari space, basically the only place they would actually be able to go is mainly Thessia.
Yeah,
And even then, they would have people watching them,
yeah.
from afar, making sure that nothing's going on. That there's a lot of suspicion going on there.
Yeah, so I think that if someone would go to Tessia, that would be the only open port, I think, because Tessia is still a religious center and they would open their gates for any other Asari and maybe to the other species as well who go with the Asari. If an Asari accompanies them, then that would be okay. And of course that Asari would like take responsibility for their actions and stuff like that. Maybe there should be a mission where someone, if you go there with an Asari and you fuck up something because you do a mission, and then they want to like sentence that Asari to, I don't know, a punishment, and you are like, oh no, this is my fault.
There will be material on this in the future. That is a guaranteed thing.
Yeah. So that's this is an interesting concept as well, but I don't really want to put a lot of effort into it. Let's say that I don't want to say effort because I really want to flesh out this faction, but much time into it because if you have one or two missions in the Asari Theocracy, that will be only just one or two missions. Like like you can't explore that space at all. You are really bound to your, I don't know, your Asari companion. Okay, let's just move on to the other faction, the Asari city-states. Do you have ideas for these poor, poor little worlds who just couldn't go with the theocracy and couldn't go with Illium as well? They are on their own, kinda.
Uh, well, much like the human independent colonies, they're not completely, how they're not completely separate from the Alliance, but they uphold the old values of the Alliance. This is what I imagine the city states would be. They're just a bunch of colonies that are trying to keep what was left of the Republic alive.
Yeah, yeah. So they are
And,
like
yeah.
what we know already, basically, about the Asari. That good old-fashioned. I really wanted this faction because I guess many people would like to see these peaceful Asari worlds because you won't be able to see the theocracy and you would just like get, I don't know, like suspicious eyes if you go to Tessia, and we will talk about Illium like very soon and you will see that that's also not quite a nice place now.
So I think that there's a lot of potential between these different factions to play off each other. Mainly the Asari city states. They're very small, but they once again do uphold the main morals and what the Asari used to be. And a lot of them actually want to reunite and become a republic once again.
Yeah, both at the
And
city
there's,
states and at the republic. I mean the theocracy.
yep, yeah, and the theocracy. There's a lot of people, a lot of sorry, who probably regret doing this. There's probably going to be a majority who feel that this was a bad idea. That it sounded great
Yeah.
at first, but uh, they made a big mistake. They didn't want to be, like this, and they want to become a republic again. But they can't say anything about it because, for the most part, the government isn't like that.
Yeah. So I think that you will see that we want to explore many corners of the galaxy, and this conflict here that Tyler just said is a really interesting concept about uh, religion, because let's be honest, religion was not a core topic anywhere in the Mass Effect games. There were like some times mentioning the Asari religion, how Stellarians like that, and stuff like that, but religion in a sci-fi environment didn't really show up in the game so far, and I think that we should really um, have a part of the game uh, for this. And but I also think that we want to explore so many things already in the game that I want to put this into a pocket. I don't know. In my, my English is not my mother language. I have like things that I just mirror to the English language. So we will explore this in the future, but maybe not in this game, because we have to think about we want to build a real game, and this will be just, I think, a bit too much. But we will definitely explore this in the future. There will be people Asari in the city states that you would meet Asari in the city states, or in Tessia would say these kind of things that they regret this. So that's a really good idea, Tyler. I actually like it, and this would be a base for a much bigger quest chain, maybe. So let's just go go for our last Asari faction, the Illium corporations. We may have some other name for them for in the future, but yeah, for now they are the Illium corporations, basically Illium and a few more worlds. And it's actually at this point it's your turf now, Tyler, because Tyler helped me a great deal with Illium. I had my a base idea for that, but actually Tyler just grew a, I don't know, uh, a big tree, a garden from that seed. So please, please, Tyler, present Illium.
All right. So, before we can actually get into Alien present day, we must take a quick look at Ilium during the Reaper War, and a little bit even before that. Before the Reaper War, Ilium is a hub city, mainly just for business. Uh, Being on the border between Terminus and Asari Space, they were actually able to get away with a lot of things, specifically slavery. It's not slavery as most people know it. It is actually more of a contract deal. But even then, getting away with stuff like that is very interesting. During the Reaper War, a lot of the corporations were very afraid to lose their power and wealth. Unfortunately for them, the Reapers actually saw this as a great advantage to take out the Asari. So, Reaper Force was dispatched to take out Illium. Uh, Preparing for this, the Asari on Illium contracted mercenaries, militias, police, anyone who could fight, and they were even able to get their hands on some fission weapons. They use these weapons to their maximum effect, destroying all troop transports, or at least almost all, before they could reach the surface. Because this happened, the Reapers were the Reapers were fought to a standstill on the planet. What eventually happens is sorry. What eventually happened is the Asari were able to fight them to a standstill on the planet, and when the crucible finally went off, the Reapers went away and eventually came back and maybe repaired a few things, but for the most part, Illium was undamaged. Because of this, the Asari on the planet and its sistering worlds believed that they could handle themselves, that they no longer needed to live in the shadow of the Asari republics, using this as propaganda. They used the victory and became their own faction. The world is now run by corporate heads, uh,
Or so it seems.
or so it seems. On the surface, it seems almost like a utopia. Everyone seems happy, technology is at its best, and it's actually flourishing. Under the surface, though, uh, Asari who do not agree with the government and even aliens are pushed to the underworld, a part of the city that very much resembles modern day Omega. They're they're very much seen as in Japan as gaijin, as foreigners and undesirables. Uh, this Illium is run by a council of around late. Hold on, sorry, I can't talk.
No problem.
So, Illium is run by a council, very much like how the Asari republics were originally run. But uh, once again, this is run by the heads, mainly of the corporations around these different planets.
Yeah, yes. And the
Uh,
thing is that I
yep.
think that we talked that there are actually two parts of this parliament. Let's
Hmm.
say that maybe, or council. That there is
Hmm.
the lower, like the real parliament, that actually people can vote for um I don't know, for politicians, that and these politicians would get into the parliament. Let's just put on a small text on this, or you know, basic stuff that let's put a regulation on using that thruster on ships, so stuff like that. This is the lower parliament. They have some power, but they actually um they don't. They are all, nearly all of them, all of these politicians are in the pockets of these higher council, of these corporates and corporate heads, that they actually govern everything, and they have their own separate council that decides on every major um, thing. And I think I don't I don't know what you think about this, but I think that it is kind of a common knowledge that this higher council of corporate heads exists, and they have the real word in they can make the real decisions or not. What do you think?
I think, for the most part, that it is public uh, to know that the other council, that the smaller governments are mainly just uh, for certain areas.
Yeah, and
So
managing stuff actually.
yeah, exactly. Whereas these guys are more of the figureheads, leaders, the face of Ilium to the rest of the galaxy.
Yeah, exactly. But that's not all. But that's not
Yeah,
all.
no, that is not all.
Not at
There's
all.
actually there is actually something called the Shadow Council on Ilium. These guys are actually not known to the public, or they shouldn't be. In fact, these guys are a bunch of gangs.
Yeah, gangs.
Yeah,
So, and these gangs, and how many? How many heads do we have in the Shadow Council now?
there's approximately about 8 gangs. 5 out of the 8 are actually big ones, or are very large gangs.
Yeah, but the other three are like not cheap as well. So they have a right to
No, yeah,
vote in this council. They fought for that right.
yep, of course. Um, yes. So we'll get into the specifics of said council later, but for the main part, they are actually allowed to be on Ilium uh, for the from protection of the Omega gangs, which we'll also
Yeah.
get into later on.
Just a few more words with about the Shadow Council again. That yeah, there these 8 gangs actually Tyler wrote really good specifics. We will talk about each and every one of them because they are just awesome. But no, like the old gangs, the Eclipse, the Blue Suns, and the Blood Pack. Like these gangs are not the part of this 8. They are totally different and new to the big stage. And because the High Council of Illium, the corporate heads, and this Shadow Council, they actually know each other, right? They have a kind of a symbiotic relationship with each other.
I was actually about to say that. Yeah. Yes. Um, the gangs actually keep them in power by using their force, whereas part of the reason why Ilium looks so nice on top is because they tell the gangs, while they're there, not to screw anything up. They're allowed to do their business in the underworld once again, and uh, they're allowed to do their business outside of alien space, which is a lot of space.
Yeah,
Um, if it ever becomes absolutely necessary, the Asari Council, the Ilium Council, sorry,
let's
can
call it
actually
let's call it High Council. The
the High
corporate heads.
Council.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So the High Council, if they believe it's absolutely necessary, can actually put bounties on other ships. So if there is a certain corporation or faction out there that that they're having major problems with, they can put bounties on the ships, cargo, and even personnel
yeah,
of these factions.
yeah.
And these gangs will get bounties for bringing in these things.
Yeah, so actually, it's kind of an interesting relationship because the gangs provide these corporations the security, their force, actually, the military force for these companies, and actually, these military manpower. But so, but the corporations grant these gangs, like give them funds and stuff like that. So it's hate love relationship. I think that both of these uh like the gang heads and the corporate heads know that the other think, at least, that the other part is like they hate each other, but they need each other. They form a really good team this way.
Exactly. And to continue this relationship, they actually have even given each gang their own tower,
Yeah,
uh, each an equal distance from each other and from the Capitol building, not only maintaining power above the gangs, but also
yeah.
influencing them.
Just to imagine, it was like, I think it was uh, like the Dentius towers in Illium in Mass Effect 2. Nasana Dentius, when you go on recruiting Thane, that wall tower complex or that twin tower complex is actually just for a gang, or Nasana and Eclipse.
Exactly. And even in these towers, they actually put out their business to be hired out as guards, mercenaries. There's even a faction that can even be used as a bank to
Yeah,
the underworld.
yes, yes, exactly. Okay, so we will talk about the gangs specifically, as I said later in another podcast. But let's look at the other side because there was the Eclipse, the Blue Suns, and the Blood Pack, and what happened to them. I made a little video about the post-war terminus systems when I said that um, there is a competition, there are new enemies on the block in terms of criminal activity, and I was referring to these 8 gang and Illium. And the thing is that on the other side there is Omega. Omega was always the, let's say, the hub for these criminal activities. Like all the big dogs were gathering on Omega. It was like maybe a neutral territory before that. There were some violent confrontations once or twice, or time to time, but actually the presence of Arya just stopped that. It didn't escalate into big turf wars because Arya may have stopped it. Arya had some kind of respect, and but there were some confrontations. But after the war, these big gangs, this and the Talon, they all fought with the Reapers and Cerberus, and they had some kind of alliance. And the thing is that what really happened to Omega is, and these gangs, that during the war they just weakened. Like, how should I say this? These gangs actively fought against the Reapers and Cerberus, so most of these gangs are probably sacrificed at least half of their personnel to the war. Like I think they had tremendous casualties in the war. And let's say Omega is not really Omega is the fortress of freedom, let's say that. But this freedom costs, uh, I don't know how to say this. Actually, I'm finding the words here. Like, Omega is a poor place compared to Illium. Omega has great ESO mines and stuff like that, but actually Illium is such a powerhouse of economy and corporations that Omega in itself can't rival that. So after these gangs were like got weakened in the war, and Omega just didn't fund these gangs like at all. Arya didn't want to fund these gangs back to health. So these experienced veterans who survived the war in these gangs just realized that new gangs with Illium in their back just started to gain more turf, started to gain more influence, even in the terminus systems and mostly in the Attic and Traverse, that these old gangs just had to realize that this can't go on like this. So they made loose alliance with each other that they will face the Illium gangs together. Yeah, they still have the occasional violent confrontations, but that's more scarce. And the thing is, one more thing, that as Arya, I think, realized that Illium is a real threat to her influence and determine systems, that Arya has become the role figure for this loose alliance, and for Omega she was the main figure of Omega anyways. She took the Talon gang under her wings, and Talon grew into a paramilitary force of Omega. That Talon is actually like a semi-official um, military of Omega. No one fucks with Arya, that's for sure at this point. No one wants to take, like, Illium gangs, they wouldn't go near Omega at this point because Arya is technically the dictator of Omega at this point. So that's what I think about Omega and the gangs.
All right, and then.
Yeah. So there is that. These, one last thing, the Blue Suns, the Eclipse, and the Blood Pack. Blood Pack didn't change after the war. Like, there is an infinite supply of Warchow, that's for sure. And the Krogan Battle Masters, they just the Krogan who survived the war may just left to Tuchanka, And so the Blood Pack is mostly unchanged, but the Blue Suns, like the cannon fodder, died out from the Blue Suns and the Eclipse, and the Eclipse had an HQ, many HQ on Illium, and they just lost that. So they are still big dogs, but they don't have that much manpower at all. But the troops that they still have, that the bosses that they still have, are hardened veterans. Like they have much, much more experience in combat and gang management than the new gangs on Illium. So it's like Illium has manpower and equipment, but the Omega gangs have experience. So there is that. And they are well
Yep.
established gang. People know them already. So they
Hmm.
have some kind of reputation already. Okay. Um so there is that. There are these gangs. Okay. So I think that Illium and Omega and the gangs, then so the Illium corporations and Arya and the Omega gangs are kind of waging a shadowy war with each other for turf on the borders of the terminus systems, and maybe they are like trying to like licit. Is there a word licit on each other?
I don't know. Let's see.
Never mind then. So the thing is that we should move on, because we will talk about these gangs later and the missions, because these gangs will be a um high focus later. Um, so we want to show again something new, but let's just leave the grand politics and the universe expanding behind a little, and let's just talk about characters. A character, especially because we want to start to present new characters to you. And I think that Tyler should start this with a character idea. So
Yes.
please go on.
Thank you. So, there, one of your new crew members, specifically a squad mate, is named Erdan Drock, or not Drock. Shoot, Herdan Narl.
Narl, that's Narl.
Narl. Yeah. Oops.
No, no problem. See, you see,
Yeah.
guys, we have so many characters now that you don't even know about yet. But we have so many ideas and characters now, so let's, we should just start. We should just start with one. So Narl.
Hmm. Yeah. So Herdan Narl, this character actually has a history. So, during the events of the Reaper, or sorry, even before the events of the Reaper War. Oops.
Like
During.
I don't know, like I don't know much about this I don't know I know next to nothing about this character, because we present to each other new things during this podcast too. Like, was Narl mentioned in the trilogy, the Mass Effect trilogy?
No, you actually get to meet him once, but you never learn his name or really anything about him.
So you actually meet him in person.
Yes. In the bar in Cora's Den, he's the Krogan that's off to the side, and if you talk to him, he says, "Mind your own business, human." He's not the nicest.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
He was a bouncer.
yes. And the story behind him is that he was actually agent of Saren, and he was watching over Fist originally.
Ah.
Yes, and so he was watching over Fist, and then after the whole fiasco of fighting in the bar, uh, sorry, hold on, cut that. No, sorry. So you're gonna meet him in Cora's Den. Before you fight Fist and his goons in the bar, he gets Herdan Narl. Sorry, at this point he was just known as Narl. Uh, so Narl was recalled the Vermeer, and his cells were actually used to create clones for Saren's army. When he returned,
So
he
you
found the
actually,
bar.
so you
Yep,
actually
sorry.
fight a bunch of Narls.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Uh,
you actually met a lot of Narls already. I don't know.
yeah,
He's not a minor character at this point.
yeah. And so he came back to the bar to find it a complete war zone. This is just after Shepard went in to try and find Tally. So, it, he helped the bartender clean up everything, and he decided to actually quit Saren's cause. He defected, and he became a bouncer for the bar full time. At this time, you could actually have him tie into a side mission for Mass Effect 1. There's a girl, I forget her name, but she's spying for CSEC. He is specifically trying to find spies for CSEC.
Oh yeah,
And and so if you help her, he actually behind the scenes, he actually threw a surprise going away party for her. They became friends. So later on during around Mass Effect 2, Narl quit the job and he actually went back to Tuchanka and became part of Clan Herdan, which is why he has the Herdan Narl.
was Clan Herdan in the Mass Effect 2?
They're incredibly small. Basically, they were one of the subsets for Clan Urdnot.
Oh, so they mentioned it?
No,
Okay.
no, no. But Clan Urdnot had influence over many, many
Yeah,
clans by that
yeah,
time,
yeah, yeah.
and so he was part of one of the lesser clans in that case. During the events of Mass Effect 3, Herdan Narl fought alongside other Krogan on, what do you call it? Palaven. Just trying to think of that. He fought alongside the Krogan on Palaven, yeah. And eventually, when you can actually hear dialogue from Garrus in Mass Effect 3, his sister has a broken leg, but she's fine. Uh, Herdan Narl actually saved Garrus' sister, losing his left arm in the process. And so, once again, Narl plays a role in the Mass Effect universe.
Ah. And how did he lose his arm?
Uh, he was supposed to be fighting a shoot.
He
I'm
he,
forgetting what they're called.
he wrestled
They're the
Raynor.
yeah they're the Asari ones. I forget what they're called. Banshees. My
Banshees, yeah.
goodness. Yeah. So uh, he actually fought off a banshee barehanded, and he lost his arm in the process. Although he won.
I can imagine like biotic powers just exploded his arm.
Eventually, he would get a robotic replacement, much like Zayn Masani.
Zaid has a robotic arm.
I think he has robotic parts.
Oh my god. I never realized that. But
I don't know. In the concept art, he has a robotic leg.
that's true.
He has a prosthetic leg. So not the point. So he has a prosthetic arm. Um, he continues to fight. He even joins the Arlac company at some point. If you're Shepard and you choose to save the Rachni Queen, he even becomes second in command of the new Arlac company under Grunt's command. So, uh,
Like, why does it matter if you save the Rachni or not? Like, they will be in Utuku tunnels anyways.
yeah. Well, no, I mean, regardless, he will eventually join Arlac company. It's just his ranking changes if
But
the
why?
Queen, because the original Arlac company gets wiped out originally. Uh,
Yeah, I can remember.
so
Actually, all the other company dies in that mission except Grant.
exactly, which is why Narl, being the one of the best Krogan other than Grunt, becomes second in command of Arlac company during that time if Grunt is around.
Yeah, okay.
So, sorry. So what eventually happens is that during the end of Mass Effect 3, Arlec Company is called to the front once again and fights alongside the humans, Turians, and the rest of the species of the galaxy on Earth. During the initial landings, the Krogan were, well, first, and they started wiping out as many Reapers as they could. During the battle, Narl noticed a Alliance ship go down and Reapers flocking toward it. He killed off all the Reapers and saved the pilot, um, Cortez, that you actually know in Mass Effect 3.
Actually, Narl is becoming that side character that we've never seen. That actually saves like characters related to important characters.
That's supposed to be the interesting part of him is that he he's been the secret character that you've never met. In
Yeah,
reality,
I can imagine like if Narl would meet Shepard and Shepard would be like, and who are you? And Narl would be, I was cleaning up your shit for centuries, for decades.
nice. Yep. Um, there's a little bit more to Narl, but nothing to really mention. Uh, all around, he's a good soldier. He's seen a lot of combat, and he's older than Grunt, but he has the wisdom almost like wisdom almost like Rex had, or it has.
And how would he be presented in the game? In Mass Effect 4 Guardians.
Well, I imagine that he's a lone mercenary abroad, much like Rex was, but maybe even a little bit more reckless when you meet Rex originally. So this guy uh, is very much a Krogan. He loves to fight no matter what.
Okay.
And yeah,
Okay, so we should think about how we would integrate him into our story, because the roster that you will have, the squad mates that will be available um, during like in our game is not finalized. So we have way too much ideas and we will explore them like one by one, just like with Narl. And at this point, each of them has there is a possibility for each of them to get into it, but you know, things may change. We will explore Nar's story, how he can fit into the missions, like how you would get him into the squad, onto your ship, because in Mass Effect 1, it was a bit cheap how you got your squad mates. It was okay story wise, but it was just sudden. Like you had Kaidan, you had Ashley, and suddenly you have three more aliens on your ship just because of one mission. And I want to like in Mass Effect 2, I want to give separate missions for these characters. I don't want to pour all of these characters onto the player, just like that.
agreed.
So, so Tyler, this Narl is your character. I think that you know the usually the way which we want the project and the game to go. So feel free to, I don't know, come up with things for Darl. I'm really curious to see where this character will go in our game. I really like the base idea. Okay, this video is getting a bit long, I guess. So let's just move on to the last point on my list for today's video, and that is via how should the choices affect the game? Mass Effect 4 Guardians. The choices that you've made in Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. And we won't talk here and now about the choices itself again, just like with the gangs, we'll explore the separate choices later. But we now wanted to talk about the base idea about how should we represent these choices, because we want the best scenario would be that bio the best would be if BioWare could like flesh out each of our choices, like, but if BioWare would do that, the game would be so different sometimes. So this was a really hard topic for us, because we discussed it many times for many hours, because my base idea for Mass Effect 4 Guardians was that we should like declare one canon way for the story. There is actually, I think that in Mass Effect 3 you have an option to not make decisions, because there is a canon, I guess. So we should determine a canon way and leave the choices behind, so like another possibility. But actually, Tyler made me realize that that's not a great thing, because the essence of Mass Effect is about the choices that you make. So we have to present as many as we can as we can. So as much as we can. And that's not an easy task, because we are building in this project a game. Well, not, you know, but actually we are building a game. And because of this, I want to consider that what BioWare is capable of. I don't want to request impossible things. I'm not a developer myself. I didn't work in BioWare before, but actually in the last 10 years I was following the gaming industry, and I was following BioWare because, as you know, BioWare is one of my favorite companies. I kinda know what they are capable of. So maybe the choices that you made may not have as dire consequences as you have seen in the epilogue after Mass Effect 3, but they will be represented somehow. I said it right. Right, Tyler?
Yes.
So, just one example of this. I think that one of your biggest decisions in the Mass Effect trilogy was the case of the genophage. Did you cure it or not? Did Rex survive it or not? So these kind of things. And just this one question, because in the epilogue we can see that if you didn't cure the genophage, the Krogan technically are extinct. And the thing is that this is one possibility. But don't think that this would be just that easy. Because, you know, Krogans live really long lives. And I don't think that even if the Krogan were not cured, there would be initiatives to do so. Because, you know, in Mass Effect 3, there was the Shroud, that device, that tower, that could technically cure nearly all Krogan at once. But you already know that not all Krogan were on Tuchanka at that point. All the Krogan on Tuchanka were cured. But actually, the cure is a thing. It was developed. And I'm pretty sure that all the other Krogan would get their dose separately. And I think that if this would surface, that there was a cure for the Krogan, and actually they were lied to, they were set up or something, that would be like, if all the Krogan says that there was a cure and you sabotaged it yet again, there would be initiatives to really cure the Krogan. Not with the Shroud, because the Shroud is destroyed, but I think there would be other scientists and people in the galaxy who would take up this role to cure the Krogans. And maybe secretly, because the Salarian government wouldn't allow it for this to happen, they would actively try to disarm every cell or group that would try this. But I think that there would be these initiatives, and this would be present. So, walking on Tuchanka. If you would walk on Tuchanka, if you cured the genophage, and Rex is alive and stuff like that, you can see that the Krogan society is flourishing on Tuchanka. You go there, you can see basically what you've seen in the epilogue, that one picture, and there are many Krogan babies that are running around. Yeah, but has a downside too, that Krogans are more dangerous, that you would see many more Krogan during your missions fighting you and stuff like that. And if you didn't cure the genophage and you have a mission on Tuchanka and you go there, you can see that Tuchanka is still in ruins, and you can see a few Krogan babies now, because they are not kept that much in protected, because actually there are reports that the Krogan numbers are not declining that much as someone would like, you see. But the whole environment, how the NPCs talk to each other, how many enemies there are and stuff like that, how well armed these Krogan enemies, all of these would change. So your environment would change. But technically, we wouldn't just eradicate the Krogan from our story and missions because of this.
Yes, in this game, if you decided to, for instance, eliminate the Krogan and, well, not eliminate, but to not cure them, you would see the actions of Commander Shepard in the present.
Yes. So the thing is that making a decision will definitely have effects on the game itself, but it's not like there will be no Krogan in the game at all, because that's not true.
No, you'll definitely see Krogan in the game. You'll definitely have plenty of encounters with them. And once again, have to deal with the actions that you took from the last one.
Yeah. So if you cure the genophage, I hope that you like Krogans, because you will meet many more Krogan fighters along the So if you don't like to fight against Krogans and you cure the genophage, well, I have bad news for you, pal. So yeah, these were the topics. We will explore the consequences of your actions in the future, like in the genophage too. So this was the summary about what would happen, what would it look like to cure or not cure the genophage. But that's a really big topic too, so that's not all. Um, but I think that this is for today's podcast. This was our really first podcast. So, but we have already plans for the next podcast. We want to do this podcast every week or every second week, but we will try to do it every week. Maybe it will not come in like regularly Wednesday or so. Maybe it will come out on different days, but we will do our best to make it happen. So in the upcoming podcast video, we will talk about the specific gangs that we mentioned one by one. Tyler has very interesting concepts and stories for these gangs. The second, we really want to talk about Liara, because we know that Liara is a fan favorite, and Liara has a very long time ahead of herself. Like, She is like 150 years old at this point. She's technically, maybe she is an adult now. So, in terms of Asari age. So I think that Liara, we really have to talk about Liara. And the third will be actually the choices, how your choices would affect. Like, that's again, specifically. Did you save the Rachni? Or not save the Rachni? Or did you cure the genophage or not? These kind of things. We will talk about these as many as we can, one by one. It will be another long and really productive podcast, I think. So I think that this is okay for the first video. It's kind of okay. It was a really good experience, isn't it? I guess.
I thought it was.
Yeah, me too. We hope that you really like this, and please, if you liked, then leave a comment down below the Facebook post or the YouTube video and tell us what do you want us to talk about in the upcoming videos, and we will put it into the schedule. Or if you have anything else to ask, or you have some tips for us, because actually this podcasting is totally new for us. This is our really the first experience. um, so if you liked our video, please leave a like and share and subscribe, and what is it now? Ring the bell and get notifications and stuff like that. So yeah, see you guys in the next Mass Effect 4 Guardians video. Bye bye.
Goodbye.